Christopher Nolan's Batman franchise concludes with this third installment of the extremely popular series. Hello there in cyberspace, and once again for the website RealScreenReviews.com, I am movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and our next movie review is the long-awaited final chapter of the Batman movies entitled The Dark Knight Rises. This summer tentpole for Warner Bros. Studios opened around the world on Friday, July 20th, 2012, and it once again features Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, and welcomes newcomers Anne Hathaway and Tom Hardy. This film comes to us from Christopher Nolan, the director most overlooked by the Academy and the helmer of The Prestige, Memento, and Insomnia. He is back in Gotham City, bringing The Dark Knight into action for audiences across the planet, and promises a grand exit in this end to the Nolan-Bale Batman franchise. This tale picks up 8 years after the events of The Dark Knight have ended, and our hero has two new Bat villains to oppose with Catwoman and Bane. Catwoman is very crafty and surreptitious, but Bane is brutal, intelligent, and ready to push Batman far beyond the brink of both physical and mental torment. As this story plays out, Batman will face a challenge far greater than the Joker or Ra's al Ghul, and does he possess the strength and desire to bring down the mighty Bane? Well, people, I will begin by saying that The Dark Knight Rises is almost exactly like Marvel Studios' The Avengers, and that's because if there was ever a film that you could ever deem critic-proof, this is definitely it. No matter what anyone says, this is the one film of the year that just about everyone in the world wants to see, and nothing is going to dissuade them from doing so. Now, the aspect where The Dark Knight Rises completely separates itself from Marvel Studios' The Avengers is that this is just next-level filmmaking at its absolute best. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved The Avengers, and it was a fantastic and fun ride, but this third installment of Nolan's Batman trilogy is a real movie with real characters surrounded by real conflict and depth. I will pick up right there with Christopher Nolan, which is to say that he is everything that represents the good in filmmaking. There is a line at the end of the very long credits where he attests to this wholeheartedly when you read, "This motion picture was shot and finished on film." The two people that I can compare him to the most are Quentin Tarantino and Steven Spielberg. Now, first off, Nolan won't even move forward until he has a strong story that is worth telling, and most of the time he writes the stories himself, which makes him a lot like Quentin Tarantino. Then he's just an absolute master that brings these almost intimate characters and concepts together in some of the biggest Hollywood films ever created, which makes him a lot like Steven Spielberg. Regardless, he has already proven that just into his early 40s to be one of the best directors Tinseltown has ever seen, and here he tells a lucid and narrative tale. In the past, he has had the hero of Insomnia commit an accidental crime of murder, killed off the love interest that did not choose the main character in The Dark Knight, and here insanely traps an entire police force while holding a complete city hostage. Put simply, this man has brass balls as a filmmaker and takes chances and risks that would make both William Friedkin and the great Sam Peckinpah proud. As the film's central protagonist and in the dual roles of Bruce Wayne / Batman, Christian Bale has almost never been better, but centers his character as a realistic, if not righteous man. Bale delivers a haunting and tormented performance, and the Academy Award winner brings it home at every turn. This brings me to Tom Hardy as the villainous Bane. Tom Hardy seems to impress me more with each performance and is nothing short of amazing as the nemesis of The Dark Knight. Even though his face is covered almost every moment of the film, his eyes, the rest of his face, and his physical body language speak an encyclopedia of words throughout. Much as he did as Tommy Reardon in last year's brilliant Warrior, he really doesn't need to say much, and when he does, through his voice-altered mask, it's almost always chilling. I found it wildly coincidental that the only part of Bane's face that is covered by a mask of sorts is the only part of Batman's face that is free of disguise. I also enjoyed how Bane is maniacal but intelligent, and the worst kind of criminal, the one that is very, very smart. Whether he's breaking out of a plane in midair, blowing up bridges or a football field, or crashing the stock exchange, there is always a method to his madness. Then you have Anne Hathaway, who is never referred to as Catwoman, and brings some lighter moments to the film. She teases our hero, and without her, the film, I believe, would have been much too morose. Morgan Freeman and Gary Oldman are both solid as always, and Michael Caine brings wonderful humanity to the film in more than a few spots, just as he did in the previous two films. Then Joseph Gordon-Levitt, another Nolan favorite and regular, shows up as a street cop named John Blake. Levitt is once again extremely well above average and holds some surprises of his own. At 2 hours and 45 minutes, The Dark Knight Rises is filmmaking at its absolute finest and a model for summer films to try and live up to. The production designers have crafted a look that brings realism to a comic book feature, and the entire art department completely outdid themselves. Director of photography Wally Pfister collaborates for the 7th time with Nolan, and his expert use of bringing the lighting, the framing, and the choice of the visual look to the film is absolutely astounding. It looks like San Diego's Comic-Con was rated by costume designer Lindy Hemming, and Hans Zimmer's score really captures the dark feel of the feature but still finds a sense of enlightened resurrection. One of the film's best assets, however, is how extremely careful and precisely edited the film has been put together. Lee Smith has been cutting films in Hollywood for about 25 years now, but has never utilized his talent more brilliantly or meticulously than he has here. The Dark Knight Rises impresses without trying and brings morality to almost every frame without ever standing on a soapbox. This is not just a summer movie, this is a surefire Oscar contender that will demand respect and notice from the Academy. The Dark Knight Rises is the crowning achievement to not only the films of Batman, but could easily be considered one of the best superhero films of all time. Nick's Real Screen Review is a perfect 4 stars out of 4, and that's for one of the year's best films and a remarkable send-off to the Bale and Nolan trilogy of The Dark Knight. And remember, people, I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies, and thank you for your attention.